This is Bill, and this is my assignment for week 4 for IDT 574. I did this rough draft over a week ago and had every intention of trying to come back and really tweak it out because this is a real project that I'm working on also for my homework and school. Now, I'm not going to mention the school because I'm going to put this up on YouTube, but I'm in instructional design technology, a wonderful course I just had for adult learners. I'm learning the processes. Our products are going to be so much better for our education and training. And this is a real program that I'm working on. It's for an apprentice program for a radio station. Now, I did not mention the radio station in this training. This was my rough draft, and it will become part of the element as we work through this. Right now, we have 6 courses scheduled, probably be 7, and we'll be working through this the next several months as I work through my schoolwork to really create a top-rate product, not only for the radio station, for the interns, but also for the National Association of Podcasters. So without further ado, for my instructors, my classmates, I'm going to turn this in on the rough draft that I built. You'll notice there's no phone. Another thing that happened during this, ironically, is we have some of my equipment is out scattered right now because we are using it to record. I am changing the studio. This is the last time you'll see my home studio here. We have a house that we're rehabbing and we're building the studio there now. Plus, I'm leaving on Wednesday to go see my daughter in Colorado Springs for the Air Force Academy Army game, and I'm meeting some friends there to work on some projects. And then I'm back here to Reno. We have 2 events next week on Thursday and Friday. I love what I'm doing going to school. I'm learning so much more. I really do plan on focusing on my master's program to finish up, to really be able to apply the tools that I'm learning to really create top-notch learning and education for not only the radio stations that we're working with podcasting, but also with the National Association of Podcasters and the Indie Podcaster. So let me show you my studio one last time. I get to see it. This was never really painted because this is an interim rental, but we have an older home that we're rehabbing, and we'll be able to use all the right colors in the studio. So without further ado, let me get to my rough draft and my homework. And I thank my classmates for putting up with me, and I look forward to our next class this month once I get back next week. It's going to be crazy next week, but after that, we can study full time. Take care, and I want to thank the professors.
See how this comes out. I've got the cam link up here,
again.
but the problem is the lens is going bad and it's not working correctly. So we got the cam link here. I've got my presentation here. Got the I've got my other camera here, which I can't really see. I guess I could move it because I see it. I could add another camera too. So what I'm doing is, this is my project for instructional design technology. I'm not going to name the class or the radio station. This is a notional radio station in Reno, Nevada. We call it Altitude Radio 95 AM. There's actually another radio station and a consultant that I'm working with and have been working with for a while to create a podcast course down the road. Now, we delayed on this podcast course, but I'm going to try to incorporate both this exercise for developing the podcast course. So as we go through it, let's get to our first slide. So my name is Bill Conrad. I'm your instructor. I've been podcasting since 2014. I came back from the military, really got into podcasting and being a creator. It helped a lot. And I also, additionally, I am live streaming for a radio station here, and we're doing events around the greater Reno area. Today's agenda, we're going to do a pre-assessment test, why podcast, and you can go down through this and see some of the things we're working on. I do want to congratulate all the students who have made it into the apprentice program from our local schools and our college. We're looking forward to working with you. Before we get going, though, I'm going to give you this pre-assessment test. So take a few minutes, take this test, and we'll come back in about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, we are back. Now we got the test and the results. There's no right answers. This is for us. So we can look back and see how it's working. So what is a podcast? Podcast really evolved let me tell you first about the history of podcasting. So in 2005, the RSS feed came out, and a couple key people actually started playing around with it. Just a few. I know some of the original podcasters, the original maybe of the first 50 original RSS feeds and podcasters. I know 2 or 3 of them. I know the owner of some of the bigger organizations, and I know some of the top trainers in the early podcasting days. and it's just amazing what's happened. So basically, a podcast is based on an RSS feed. It's something that actually auto updates, and it has a tendency to allow you to go out to a bunch of podcatchers. So what is a podcatcher? You have to know what that is too. It's like Apple or Spotify or any place that you have an app on your phone, and like I'll show you here. So why radio cares about podcasting? So why are we doing this apprentice program? We want to generate a new kind of engineer, an engineer that not only understands radio, but understands podcasting production and creation, so they can coach and teach a lot of people in our community about podcasting. We have on average about 40 or 50 people who want to create both a podcast, and the other thing too, with these podcasts, we can repurpose them on radio. So why should you podcast? Well, it's a profession that you can grow into. It's the new age. You can make income. You can create your own podcast from what you learn here working as an apprentice at the radio station. Future creativity and an influencer. There's so many different ways you can go. Now, we'll talk later about how YouTube has come into the market and changed podcasting to more video work, which is really good and takes a little higher level of skill. So, podcasting consumption over the years. Podcasting has grown tremendously since 2005. And as you see up here, I guess I got to go back up. And as you see here, podcasting ad revenues have grown to $5 billion. And that's why the radio station is so interested. There's a case study of one of the stations, one of an FM station about 7 or 8 years ago, who was dying. And a lot of radio stations are having a challenge right now because of the cost of putting out that signal every day. But when they started podcasting, they started 26 different podcasts. And they became one of the more successful organizations in the greater Salt Lake area with both their podcast and their radio station. Each helped each other grow. And they hit some very top shows, which you would recognize if I would tell you you would recognize them. So why should you podcast? Well, it's a professional track you can take. You can produce income. It's a future. It's creativity, and it's an influencer. All these elements are going forward. And the thing is, you can do it here in the studio. You can also do it at home, or you can go remotely with people, like I'll show you in a bit. Here's an example of me going remotely at one of our malls, at one of our events here, and this is actually in one of the casinos in Reno, Nevada. So podcast consumption is definitely growing. You can see here the number of people and what is happening. Only 27% of people have not watched a podcast, and it is definitely growing. So learning outcomes. What we're going to do today is we're going to have each of you create a 1 to 2 minute MP3 on your smartphone, where I'll be using an iPhone. We're going to select and talk about a media host, and then we're going to have you go home and publish to that MP3. So when you come back next week to the studio, you will go over and we'll talk about lessons learned, and we'll listen to your RSS feed in your short podcast. So creating 1 to 2 minute videos. So this is how we do it. So here is my cell phone. You can see up here on the screen. I am talking into it. And here, 1, 2, 3, you can talk about anything. I said, well, I would say something like, I want a podcast. I'm going to learn as much as I can. It sounds like an exciting organization to get into. Now, I live here in Reno, Nevada, and that's why I have so much interest locally. I think I'm going to start a podcast that talks about dogs and cats. How's that? Well, the point here is just talk about anything for a few minutes, get the voice down to understand the simplicity of how you can record something. You can record now with our new help and editing and AI that helps sound out on an iPhone or any smartphone, and it sounds incredibly smooth when you do the editing correctly, which we'll talk about in later classes. So here I just did my demonstration. So let's talk shortly about media hosts. We mentioned those earlier. The top media podcast hosts are Buzzsprout, Podbeam, Libsyn, Captivate, and Spreaker. professional ones, though, and there's a reason why they're professional. We'll get more into more classes about this. Transistor, Simplecast, Blueberry, and Castos. So I want you to select one of these three media hosts. Buzzsprout is free to set up. Libsyn costs, I think, $7 to $9. It's a very professional podcast setup. And Blueberry, if you know a little bit about programming and especially WordPress, you can create an amazing interaction with Blueberry. I would recommend testing Buzzsprout out, but if you really want to get into the podcasting, go ahead and try Libsyn and Blueberry. Try at least one of these and bring them back next week. I'm going to show you, though, real fast, my Libsyn account and how I set it up, and where you can go to get more detailed instructions next week to set it up, and then how I upload an episode. I'll upload this little episode I just made on the phone. Okay, now we're done with that. I have a post-assessment test. I just want to see how much you guys picked up today. Again, this is not graded, just for my information. And finally, upcoming training. Let me go over it. Week 2 planning. Week 2 will be do more detailed planning after we review your stuff. We'll talk about, we want you to create your own podcast. And we'll talk about themes and what you can do to create a podcast. Now, the reason why we're teaching you to do your own podcast, because you'll be working with maybe 5 to 10 different groups of people as an apprentice as you evolve into being a podcast engineer and a studio engineer. When you do that, you'll, like I said, you'll be working with 10 or so people. And then in week 3, we're going to teach you the hardcore basics of recording the podcast on different equipment, like using the Zoom S6 in the field, from using your smartphone to using our technical equipment in the studio. Week 4, we'll come back into editing and post-production. That actually takes a lot of skill, a lot of time, but the better we do our post-production, the better, the easier the editing will be. And finally, we'll talk about publishing and distribution. We'll talk about, go a deeper dive into the media host and how we connect those to all of the different social media platforms to get that information out. That's very important. In promotion and growth. And then we'll talk about how you will promote both your skill set to go out in the community to recruit people to create podcasts for, as well as connecting them into the station. And finally, with growth, we'll show you how you can make a profitable podcast by yourself and work for the studio at the same time. Well, I hope this helps out. Closing thoughts, have a little discussion. Let's go into discussion right now. Karen, what did you had your hand up? Very good. Yes, that's very true. Next week when you come back, we'll talk about that. You need to bring back your MP3 up on one of those 3 media hosts: Libsyn, Bluehost, Libsyn, Blueberry, or I forgot the third, Buzzsprout. Post-evaluation, if you could, before you leave, we have a post-evaluation. I'd like you to grade me, how I can do better, and I appreciate that if you fill that out right now. Give you a few minutes. If you have any questions, go ahead and contact me at bill@naop.us. I check my email twice a day. And leave a phone number or a text, and I'll get back to you if you want me to get back to you right away. Finally, here's some of the references: Blueberry, Buzzsprout, and Libsyn. There's links here. And I have some statistics on podcasting that we use throughout this training. I want to close with a quick talk. This is Todd Cochran. He was a good friend of mine. He was a P3 engineer for 20 years in the Navy. And he is one of the early founders and starts of the RSS feed and the developer of Blueberry. Todd passed away a couple weeks ago, but he was at every podcasting event. He is a stellar person. He was my mentor, along with another person, Dave Jackson, who was actually my trainer. We'll miss Todd, but he left behind a legend and really can be one of the original founders. He considered one of the original founders of the American podcast. Without further ado, I will see you next week at the station. And I want to thank you and again congratulate you for making it to this event.